Okay, CVH here with more commentary and analysis of our IDC31 tournament games. Today, we are starting the top 8, which is broken up into two parts. The first part is a group stage, where the top 8 is broken into 4 competitors each, and those players play against each other within the group in a round-robin style. The top 2 finishers of each group then go on to the semifinals and finals, which are single elimination, with a bronze match in there for 3rd place. In my group, we have Darksigner, who is our first opponent, and he is the only person in my 4-person group that I did not know the deck for. The group also has Claude Alpha, who we played in Swiss, who's on Water Dark Aggro, and Nasus, who was one of Carl's opponents in Swiss, so I know that Nasus is playing Water Dark Fire Nature Turbo Burn. So I'll be playing guaranteed 3 matches at least to commentate over, and this is the first one against Darksigner, who I don't currently, at this point in time, I didn't know what they were playing. Yeah, I'm not doing live commentary for these. I would have loved to, because it's fun, and this is a little bit more work for me to narrate over in post. As you can see, I'm not moving my mouse right now, but just due to a confluence of variables, it was just not able to happen. The time zone differences caused this tournament to be at 6 a.m. for the top 8 for me, since I'm in North America. So yeah, waking up at 5:45 in the morning to play top 8, pretty fun. But also, my desk setup is currently in my bedroom, which I do not sleep in alone, so I couldn't just be awake at 6 a.m. doing commentary for Duel Masters. But hey, we're doing it now. So yeah, moving into things, I start out by putting Quixotic down, preparing for the turn 2 Ganta, and since I don't know what my opponent is playing, any of the other cards in my hand could potentially be useful still. And I see the Blue Mercus, and there aren't too many decks that play Blue Mercus nowadays, so I'm immediately thinking that it's the Light Water Dark Nature Ice Sword deck that actually won the previous IDC 30. So I figured it would be a popular deck to bring. But yeah, we're starting out with Ganta. Pretty classic turn 2. Should be good against Ice Sword, should be good against virtually everything. At that point, I check my opponent's deck count, and I see that it was indeed a 40-card deck. So Ice Sword being a 40-card mid-rangey deck, the math seems to check out. We can anticipate, and then we see the Sky Sword, which of course is one of the namesakes of Ice Sword. So pretty sure we're on that, and we're obviously very happy to not see a turn 2 play. Ice Sword traditionally doesn't really have any. I don't think the version in IDC 30 had a turn 2 play. Now I know that Darksigner's version does at least have one thing he could have on turn 2, but fortunate to not see it. And yeah, Bronze Arm Tribe, the ideal follow-up for Ganta, and we are breaking a shield, which turns out to be Colon. So pretty bad news here, just because that's essentially just a removal spell on Bronze Arm Tribe, so it does set me back pretty significantly. And Colon wasn't in the original Ice Sword deck that I saw, so I'm already thinking, okay, there's going to be quite a few more shield triggers than I would have liked to face. Yes, Darksigner sees the Bronze Arm ramp, and now I get a little bit of reach with the Hyper Sprint Warrior. I think my plan here is just going to be to put it in mana, play Quixotic, and try to Jigalzor next turn, which could actually set up lethal. It kind of sucks that I would have to mana something here. I kind of debate just like putting Quixotic down and playing Hyper Sprint Warrior, but the break doesn't make a whole lot of sense, since Jigalzor will be able to double break, and I'll still get lethal next turn, and Hyper Sprint Warrior would die to the Bronze Arm. So this is clearly the better play here. Okay, Bronze Arm down, plays Bronze Arm Tribe, and at this point I am glad to not have seen a Sky Sword this turn. But then, of course, the swap is the second play for the turn, and Sky Sword does put the Force Shield down, which prevents Jigalzor from being lethal. And then I get really unlucky here and actually top deck one of the few multi-civs in the deck. So Jigalzor is no longer a thing I can do. I'm just going to have to simply play Ganta and try to keep attacking. The odds of 2 multi-civ cards off the top back-to-back are extremely low. So I don't really feel like I need to put Ganta in mana just to be safe here. I feel like I want to develop another creature, try to still represent lethal on board. Although now that Darksigner has a bunch of mana, the odds that I actually get to do that lethal are decreasing, with now Miraculous Plague being a potential out. So we just simply play the Ganta, rely on the top of our deck to be that untapped mana we need next turn, and swing on with the Ganta we already had. Holy Awe taps my Quixotic, which is a kind of a bummer for sure. Allows a pretty favorable trade. If there is a Plague here, Plague can deal with the Gantas. Darksigner would not be summoning any creatures this turn, so then Quixotic would still be at 1000 power. I'd be put down to 3 mana for next turn, so at that point I think Plague is essentially just losing here, and that is exactly what we see come down, unfortunately. So one of the Gantas goes to my hand, one goes to discard. Let's see what Darksigner targeted in the mana. It's also about this time that I realized I was basically just playing Fire Nature midrange this game. not a water mana in sight. Yeah, it's a full clear. The Sky Sword gets to take a favorable. I am on a very low amount of mana next turn. I don't think Darksigner attacks here. I think he's going to wait until he builds up a bit more of a board. Oh, actually does go in. Okay. So, I mean, I kind of get it, right? Even Aqua Surfer wouldn't be that good for me. It would just trade evenly with Sky Sword or bounce the Sky Sword, which I obviously don't want to do to get a favorable here. I think this is a Spiral Gate that I pick up, and I think I don't play it. I think I wind up keeping it in my hand to act as that blue mana that I so desperately need. Could be relevant, especially if I drew a Lucky Ball here, and hey look, I drew a Lucky Ball here. Which I think is just going to be the play. Because, or maybe, do I somehow decide not to? Maybe I keep Gate because I'm worried about being pressured. That's kind of interesting, because now that we know Darksigner's attacking, maybe I don't need to play Lucky Ball. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I really obviously wish I could play Ganta and Quixotic, but now I'm starved for nature mana after the Miraculous Plague last turn. So yeah, we'll see. I guess I don't think there's any real logic to Spiral Gating this turn. I'm not being threatened for lethal at all. But maybe there is logic to not playing Lucky Ball, just playing one of the 2-drops, and maybe trying to play 2-drop plus Spiral Gate next turn if I am being threatened, and Darksigner continues to break shields. Yeah, I put the Lucky Ball down, play Ganta, and pass, I'm pretty sure. Yep, there we go. If my opponent plays Fighter Dual Fang or Bloom Urkus, that would be a super preferable Spiral Gate target. Just a bunch more tempo for me at that point. Ice Vapor goes down. Our deck isn't playing a ton of spells. It's not the most useful card in the matchup for sure. Can be annoying at times though. And oh yeah, Second Plague essentially seals the deal here, I think. I mean, I would need like double Surfer to have a fighting chance here, because I am no longer really able to play threatening creatures this game. Put the fire mana down into the discard pile, pick up the water again. I don't even have the mana to play both my 2-drops next turn, so it's not really a concern. And the Darksigner goes in with the 2. Breaking in that order in case I did get a shield trigger or Spiral Gate, and I would bounce Sky Sword to save myself a shield, and then he would be more than happy to replay it the following turn. I'm a little bit off of Searing Wave, definitely significantly far from Jagalzor this game. It is really unfortunate looking back that I drew the Ganta when I did, because after that turn, the window closed entirely for 6 mana for me. there was never going to be another turn where Jagalzor was very playable. Okay, we do see the Fighter Dual Fang come down. Octagon being a little bit weird there. Don't remember if he has a follow-up. He does have a follow-up. Yeah, this is when I see that Darksigner is playing Emerald in his version of Ice Sword. Not sure how many copies, but it is a pretty cool addition. I mean, obviously Colon is something new for the deck, and Emerald is taking advantage of that massive amount of shield triggers, especially shield trigger creatures that are now in the list. So yeah, Fighter Dual Fang double breaks, and Bronze Arm takes the game. We're off to game 2, and hoping to pull this out. But again, we're in top 8 group stage, so there are 3 guaranteed matches for you all to see coming up. On the play yet again. Nice to see Ganta back in my hand. Currently missing a 3-drop. I would also like to play Rebirth more from hand in this matchup. I feel like, yeah, I mean, this might have been like because I was tired maybe. It's kind of a greedy keep because of like mana problems. But Hyper Sprint Warrior and Soul Swap could maybe have just been my first 2 mana decisions. And maybe keeping Rebirth just because my opponent is playing a critical mass of 5-cost creatures could have been correct. Yeah, I could maybe see that. Especially, I mean, drawing the second Ganta is pretty solid. That gives me a definite turn 3 play. A 3-drop is generally better, but hey, now that we know that Darksigner is playing Colons, Ganta pretty much makes those irrelevant. No trades available. That said, I do pick up the Bronze Arm Tribe, and even though a shield trigger Colon would deal with it pretty effectively, I feel like the mana ramp is still quite valuable. So I'm gonna play that on the turn when it is the most powerful, and that is this turn, because it frees up my mana next turn for like a 2 and a 3 or a 5-drop, or if I top deck Earthstomp Giant or Rill or Copper Locust or something, I'm really gonna have been glad to have that extra mana. And yeah, Darksigner mirrors the play with a Bronze Arm. All looking normal so far. This is a little bit awkward because my 4-cost cards aren't super effective right now. Hyper Sprint Warrior just gets traded into, but to be fair, so does Bronze Arm Tribe, so like another line could just be playing Ganta and only attacking with my Ganta on board. I opt for the super aggro line. Looking back, there was definitely some merit to just playing Ganta. And then if I only play Ganta, then I only attack with the other Ganta. And that still puts my opponent down to 3 shields, so Lucky Ball would have value next turn. Yeah, I'm going for the aggro line, which I think also has a lot of merit, especially if I dodge shield triggers, because like Bronze Arm can only trade into one thing. That's not really that bad. It's a 1-for-1, and I do have Lucky Ball to reload the hand next turn. So yeah, going in with the Ganta. Okay, I hit Holy Awe. So I don't feel quite as bad about this line, because if I had gone with the Ganta and tried to save Bronze Arm Tribe, I would have still hit the Holy Awe by attacking with the first Ganta. So Bronze Arm is going to get a trade either way. This time it just gets a trade with Hyper Sprint Warrior instead. I think if I remember correctly, we're coming up on kind of a bad misplay on my part, just to remind the folks at home that I was playing this match at about 6:15 in the morning on like less than 5 hours of sleep. So yeah, I think this is the turn that I probably make, at least to my knowledge, the worst play of the tournament top 8 day. I'm hoping that it is. So obviously with Skysword, my opponent is now at 6 mana and 4 shields. Given that it was very early in the morning, I don't like register in my head that my opponent is now on 4 shields instead of 3. So I make this play, this classic vanilla Lucky Ball play. I like realize it as I'm tapping the mana. I'm like, dang, my opponent played Skysword last turn, so this is just a 3000 vanilla. So the correct play here was almost definitely to just not play mana and play Quixotic on the board. Okay, yeah, okay, I make sense. I keep the Lucky Ball. I don't play it as a vanilla, which I think has like some small amount of merit, but is probably not as good as just attacking with Ganta and trying to value the Lucky Ball. But yeah, obviously if I was just going to hold Lucky Ball, the play is to not play mana and just play Quixotic on the board and attack with Ganta, which is the right play. So all other things equal, the situation on board, if I had played correctly, should be the same, except I'm down 1 mana and Quixotic is on the board instead. Still not a fantastic position, especially because my opponent is going into Miraculous Plague mana this turn, but definitely preferable to not having a play last turn. And I don't know if Darksigner just doesn't have Plague, but is not playing it this turn. This is a totally reasonable line too. Surfer bouncing Ganta. If I had Quixotic on the board, I would have at least 1 shield break potential. But honestly, even that, like, we're pretty far from having the gas required to win. If I had Quixotic, I don't think Darksigner would be making these attacks. But I also don't think that Darksigner not attacking would be much better for me this turn. And now my hand is full of cards that are good earlier in the game. I can offload a couple of them to the board this turn. Obviously, Lucky Ball is no longer really valuable because I'm just getting cards from shields. And that's not really my problem right now. My problem is no tempo. Problem is no board presence, and we're fixing that somewhat by playing 3 creatures, but a card like Miraculous Plague could just clear enough, and obviously Lethal is already on board, so I'm already relying on a shield trigger here to stay alive. Another Hulkus. With 6 mana, I mean, there is Fighter Dualfang too, which, okay, it's not the play. Just a Sky Sword, which is pretty good here. If he wants, he can still attempt lethal this turn, and he does go for it. It's a little scary, right? Because now Aqua Surfer plus 1 speed attacker would be enough for me to survive and potentially win. I don't get Surfer, but I do get a Spiral Gate, which is good enough to keep me alive. but I'm still staring down lethal next turn, and I don't have a Jigalzor, which would be a potential win condition. Yeah, Jigalzor off the top would have done it. Actually, I mean, y'all can see how long this video is, so I didn't realize this game was so close. I mean, one Jigalzor top deck would have gotten there for sure. But it's looking like a Volcano Charger, double trade. I'm still relying on just one shield trigger, so I think that's just the line it's gonna have to go. Lucky Ball is still not actually getting anywhere. With the right mana off the Bronze Arm, I can play double Bronze Arm, and that's kind of cool. I get it. Oh, Jigalzor was one card down. Wow. Wow, that's that's something, isn't it? And the Ganta's double attack. And if I get really, really lucky and get another shield trigger, I could stay alive here. And now it's just a matter of if Darksigner can do anything just for safety's sake that would keep him alive. Ooh, I'm kind of blocking the mana a little bit. Let me move myself up. I think this might be a better place. I didn't realize I'd have so much mana this game. Okay, Emerald, I mean, Emerald could provide a lot of safety if the card Darksigner's putting down is Holy Awe. If that's the case, then even if I get a shield trigger creature this turn, I am certainly not going to win this game. Because my window is one turn if I had a shield trigger creature there to take it. But I don't. That is a 2-0 for Darksigner. And yeah, we're starting off the group stage with a loss right after going 6-0 in Swiss. So not the match I wanted to start this early morning of top 8 on, but hey, we've got 2 more guaranteed matches to try to make it out of the group stage. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one, and stay tuned because we will have matches against Nasus and then Cloud Alpha coming up in the next couple days. Thanks for watching, everybody.